We're queuing things up today in the green pastures of Kerrisdale. With me on camera as always is Rick Von Schmidt. In 1905, Mrs. William McKinnon named this community after her family home in Scotland, Kerrydale, which means little seat of the fairies. Along with 6,000 screaming teenagers, those fairies got off their seats to dance here at the Kerrisdale Arena on June 27, 1956. It was Vancouver's first rock and roll concert. Bill Haley and his Comets performed their big hits, Rip It Up, Shake, Rattle and Roll, and Rock Around the Clock. The kids loved it, but the critics sure didn't. The Vancouver Sun called it the ultimate in musical depravity. Today, some little people are having hockey practice in here. Back in 1956, this was the birthplace of rock and roll in Vancouver. In the lobby here, they've got a nice display on the Bill Haley concert. And our friends at the Vancouver Heritage Foundation have installed a plaque that tells visitors here of the concert. It says the kids were jiving and screaming. Red Robinson writes of his job emceeing the Bill Haley concert in his incredible book, Backstage Vancouver. Red on the left there told Bill on the right, "You're on top of the world." Bill replied, "Well, it's been fun, but the ride's over. There's a handsome young singer down in Memphis they call the Hillbilly Cat." On August 31st, 1957, Red would recall Bill's prophetic words, because that's the day Elvis Presley came to Vancouver, and he would cause a riot. Elvis had played in Spokane, Washington the day before, and all the local reporters were waiting for him to arrive at the airport. But Red, who had the coveted gig of MC for Elvis's Vancouver concert, had the inside scoop, and he waited for him at the train station. Elvis's train may have included these stainless steel cars. They date back to 1955. Red says the train stopped before it got to the station. Elvis got out to look around. A couple of gals spotted him, and he signed a few autographs. Born in 1935, Elvis would have been 22 years old when he came to Vancouver, and he was a rock and roll superstar with tunes like Hound Dog, Don't Be Cruel, and Love Me Tender. A limousine brought Elvis here to the Georgia Hotel, downtown. Red followed him here and talked with him for a few hours. Red says Elvis was a very nice, down-to-earth guy. He says he was big and strong and built like a quarterback. Elvis was up in room 1226. Sadly, it sounds like the room was remodeled and perhaps combined with other rooms. Although his room may be gone, though, we do have this historic plaque that says Elvis was a distinguished guest of the hotel, along with others over the years, including Nat King Cole, John Wayne, and the Rolling Stones. Elvis didn't have a chance to enjoy the beautiful lobby of the Hotel Georgia here, because after only a few hours, he had to get to Empire Stadium to rehearse for his big show there. And here off Hastings Street is where Empire Stadium used to be from 1954 to 1990. It would have been a fairly new stadium when Elvis performed here on August 31st, 1957. I think we have a couple of pictures of old Empire. Nice job, Rick. One more here. Yeah, well done. Elvis's stage was at the north end of the stadium. Here at the south end, they've installed a historic cairn recognizing the concert. Looks like it could use a little refurbishment, though. After the rehearsal, Elvis held a press conference. It sounds like it took place in the BC Lions dressing room. I believe the dressing room was on the west side here by the roller coaster. It's a playground here now. Red hired a photographer and recorded the interview. I'm sure if we all agree to buy Red's phenomenal book, I'll include a link in the comments below. He won't mind if we take a peek at those pics and take a little listen too. Rick, you want to cue that up as soon as we've gone for a ride down the slide here? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's a standard guitar. I have a leather cover over it. I had that made.
Ladies next.
Do you find that touring is much more harder on you than making movies or doing TV shows?
Well, touring is the roughest part. It's really rough because, I mean, you're in a town and you do a show, you come off, you ride in a car, you're going to the next town.
Would you prefer more to making movies and doing TV, or would you rather just stick to movies and records?
Well, I think every performer likes to work to a live audience.
How's the Pacific Northwest struck you? What you've seen of it and performed?
It's terrific. It's really beautiful country up here.
After the press conference, Red here hung out with Elvis before the show. Elvis asked a nearby cop if he could borrow his handcuffs, and then he handcuffed Red to his shower rod and tossed the keys away. The cop couldn't find them, and Elvis said, "Gee, Red, I guess I'll have to go out there and introduce myself." Then he started laughing. The practical joker had the keys the whole time. Elvis emerged from the dressing room wearing his famous gold jacket. He got into a black Cadillac limousine convertible, and it drove counterclockwise around the stadium. Then he got on the stage to perform. Here we are at the north end where the stage was. Elvis would have looked out here at 25,000 screaming fans. Elvis and the boys performed Money Honey, That's Where Your Heartaches Begin, Hound Dog, and Jailhouse Rock. Red includes a couple of great pictures of the concert in his book, and we do have a very short clip of the concert. The audio's not that great, but just to give you a little taste of it. Rick, you want to cue that up? The concert promoters didn't sell tickets for the field, and the people in the stands wanted to get closer to Elvis, so they rushed the stage. The young ushers that night couldn't handle the frenzied mob. Elvis became concerned for everyone's safety, and he abruptly ended the show after 22 minutes. He ducked through a trap door under the stage and gave his gold jacket to another guy. Some say cousin Gene Smith, and others say his buddy George Klein. The crowd chased after the gold jacket, and Elvis quietly returned to the Georgia Hotel without anyone noticing. This is a picture taken by photographer Ralph Bauer depicting some of the riot after the show. Poor guy was trampled soon after. In his review of the show, local critic John Kirkwood said it was like watching a demented army swarm down the hillside to do battle when those frenzied teenagers stormed the field. Elvis and his music transformed Vancouver teenagers into writhing, frenzied idiots of delight. Elvis Presley's one-night stand at Empire Stadium was the most disgusting exhibition of mass hysteria and lunacy the city has ever witnessed. Unquote. At 2:30 a.m., Red's phone rang. Being the nice guy that he was, Elvis called Red to thank him and say goodbye. The next day, Red went on his radio show and announced that Elvis stayed at the Hotel Georgia in room 1226. A bunch of kids heard this, went up, and tore out the carpets and pieces of the bed. Cost the radio station $5,000 to repair the room. After Ottawa and Toronto earlier in the year, this was Elvis's third performance city in Canada, and it would be his last. He left town to do 2 shows the next day, the first in Tacoma and the second in Seattle. And that's going to do it. As we wrap things up here, Rick is going to recreate the riot running after Elvis. I hope you enjoyed this little taste of old Vancouver as she once was. I'd like to thank Bev Sugarman for makeup and Jewel Hillmere for wardrobe. On behalf of Rick and myself, thanks for watching. And until next time, that's good, be.